Here we are once again at the end of another great year in gaming. What were my 10 favorites? Well, you're about to find out. Each entry lightly touches on why I thought these games were worthy, but for a more in-depth analysis, most of these games have reviews or other videos about them on my channel, which I will link in the show notes. So without further ado, in order ranked from 10 to number 1, here are my top 10 games of 2019. In terms of looter shooters, I like the first Division more than the first Destiny. The same does not hold true for this sequel. As cool as Washington is, I thought the snow-covered city of New York had a better vibe to it. That said, this was still an intense amount of fun that lasted me a solid month before I eventually dropped out. This is all to say it was good, but also kind of forgettable in the long run, but at least worthy enough to make my top 10. Astral Chain didn't quite hit the same highs for me as Platinum Games' last hit, Nier Automata, but I dug the originality. It is like their classic brawler dodger formula mixed with a little bit of Persona and Parasite Eve. The biggest problem I had was that the other world didn't look great, and whatever twin you chose to be your avatar, that character would then not speak. But the other one did? It didn't make sense, but other than that, it was a nice surprise on Switch. In terms of raw action, I like Devil May Cry 5 a lot more, and this is coming from someone who thought the 2013 reboot was good. However, there's nothing quite like that over-the-top nature of the originals, so it was nice to see the story continue as baffling as it was. The metal and action were just as bombastic, and I love the addition of Nero's robot arm. I wish that inventory was better managed and that they didn't break as easily, but that's something they can hopefully fix in 6. Fallout 3 was my first game in the series, and I devoured it. The same goes for New Vegas, but Fallout 4 didn't hit me quite as hard, and the less I say about Fallout 76, the better. This is all to say The Outer Worlds was like comfort food for a course I've been waiting to dine on for almost a decade. Plus, it had a lot of Mass Effect vibes too. The good parts at least. For a late generation game, it certainly doesn't look amazing, but it was more of the good Fallout formula, and I'm pretty fine with that. Control seems to be loved by most critics, as it did get entered into the Game of the Year category at this year's Game Awards, not to mention winning IGN's Game of the Year. I gave the game an 8 because of the PS4 technical problems. Besides those issues, it is rough around the edges in other ways too, like a few puzzles and late game boss encounters. But overall, I think it is Remedy's most ambitious and best game yet. Ever since Death Stranding was teased at E3 2016, I was in. That's probably because I'll play anything Hideo Kojima has a hand in. Was the wait worth it? Well, yes and no. On the downside, it was way too long for what it was, and some of those traversal expeditions were ridiculous. For someone known for developing amazing boss battles, those aspects fell flat too. I have a list of complaints a mile long, and while it didn't quite hit as high as his last game, Metal Gear Solid 5, which I will note won my personal game of the year in 2015, I was still enthralled by Death Stranding. It was certainly not what I expected, and while it may share similarities with other open world games, it was also something new for the industry, and I, as cliche as it is to say, enjoyed the experience. Children of Morta's lack of press is simply astounding. Sure, there have been many pixel design roguelikes over the past decade, but this is one of the coolest. It stars a family of warriors who are destined to stop a plague from spreading. That means every member can be played, and naturally they all have different talents and weapons such as daggers, bows, gauntlets, and so forth. While they do level up individually, a skill tree can also raise the family's stats. Plus, it has 2-player co-op. It was heartwarming, dark, and altogether, one fantastic journey. 2 huge things may have steered people away from Ring Fit Adventure. The first of which is the price. $80 is a lot to spend at a game. The other factor lies in that this is an exercise game, and for those that played Nintendo's last entry in the genre, Wii Fit, they may be expecting another dull routine, but Ring Fit is anything but. It perfectly blends exercise with RPGs, making you feel addicted to working out just to see what comes next. It is tough, but the results are worth it. I'm still playing 2 months later, and I feel fantastic. I'll talk more about that in my actual final video of the year, so there's a tease for something more to come. This was first unveiled as the one more thing at the end of the March Nintendo Direct. Looking back, it was honestly the biggest surprise of 2019 for me. I liked Crypt of the Necrodancer, but I thought the lack of progression didn't gel for me as much as I enjoyed other roguelikes. So while intrigued, I was a bit worried. Thankfully, Cadence of Hyrule fixed a lot of my issues on top of being just a gorgeous piece of art that was fun to look at, play, and listen to. I could go on and on about the soundtrack alone. Anyway, it was almost my game of the year, but nostalgia played a big part in my number 1 slot. Now, I have been attached to Kingdom Hearts as soon as the series launched on PS2 in 2002. I am a diehard fan, so even though I know Kingdom Hearts 3 has a lot of problems, boy, did it make me cry. It was like a dream come true. Finally, after 6 years of development when it was first teased at E3 2013, and waiting even longer than that since the last console game came out in 2006, it was here. The spin-offs did keep me satisfied. I would even call Birth by Sleep a quality console level of awesomeness, but there was nothing quite like playing Kingdom Hearts 3 at long last on a console again. It felt good, it felt right, and that, put simply, is why this had to be my Game of the Year for 2019. Did you like that video? If you did, please like, subscribe, and spread the good word of ReActionExaminer. If you want to read more of my stuff, you can find a plethora of my articles over at TheGamer and Game Rant. All of those links and more are in the show notes below. Thanks for watching!